stop a minute and think about that. You see, because we are very, very early, very young when the children are very young, we label them saying they can't speak English, or they can't do math, or so on. But children learn to walk and talk and interact with their environment and twist you around their little finger all by themselves. Thank you very much. They don't need any inputs from any of us, parents, teachers, anybody. So it's in their DNA to learn, and every teacher must internalize this, that children are learning all the time. They are learning by exploring the environment around them, and they are learning, their curiosity is driving them, and they're learning about the things that they see, and they see other people do around them. And so if they are not learning in class, we have to look very deeply somewhere else for what the reasons are. And this is what NEP did, and I'll share that with you quickly, okay? And so that NEP has incorporated what we learned from research about the developmental stages of children and how they learn. And so I've said that all implementers need to undertake that. So I always begin my education policy talks with the vision statement of NEP. I apologize if you have all seen it again, but every time I look at it, it sort of reinforces the fact that, the vision statement of the NEP says that the purpose of the education system is to develop good human beings. We're not talking about their knowledge. We're talking about good human beings capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical moorings and values. So, the policy is trying to produce engaged, productive, and contributing citizens for a equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged by our Constitution. So this is all personality development, social development, values development, you see. So the NEP goes on to say that it is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacities, but also aesthetic, social, physical, moral, and emotional capacities and dispositions. So that's something that we must always keep in mind, that, we are not just looking at teaching kids material in class, which is sadly what it has become of late, but we are trying to develop whole human beings who can contribute to society. And of course, then teachers are central to the successful implementation because the policy, like I said before, puts the development of individual students at the center, which then puts the spotlights on teachers. So in terms of initial preparation of teachers, the NEP makes a very big change and says that initial teacher preparation, the B.Ed degrees, will move out of standalone colleges into large multidisciplinary environments, so that the candidate teachers are learning in a rich environment where they can, combine maybe programming classes with commerce and social sciences, and they can pursue their interests while also learning about pedagogy and teaching and so on. So the B.Ed will now become a 4-year undergraduate program. And then some of the best institutions in the country are being asked to open B.Ed programs, so that very high quality B.Ed programs start to become available quickly. Of course, the 2-year B.Ed program and the shorter training programs will stay, because people may decide teaching is not a profession that you necessarily need to decide at the age of class 12 that you will take. You could decide to teach after undergrad. You could decide to teach after you've had a successful professional career. So there will be shorter training programs of various lengths for various kinds of professionals to come into teaching. And that's described in the policy document. So pre-service, but as well, and also in-service training will become a regular activity based on the National Curricular Framework for Teacher Education that is currently under preparation. It is hopefully going to be available by the end of the year. I think this National Curricular Framework for School Education will become available maybe in a few months, 2 to 3 months or so. And of course, the school accreditation processes and all will give appropriate importance to the working conditions, autonomy, and support given to teachers by their managements. So here's my one-slide summary of NEP 2020. I don't want to spend more than 30 seconds on it. I just want to say that 3 key areas of focus of the NEP are early childhood care and education, which means bringing 3-year-olds into the fold of schools, actually 3 to 6-year-old. Government schools used to start at 6, grade 1. So that's changing. Then ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, and we'll talk a lot more about this. We want every child to attain foundational literacy and numeracy by the age of 8 or by 10 at the latest. And of course, stemming dropouts, because by the time kids pass out of 10th standard, for every only 56 kids out of the 100 that started, out of every 100 that started in grade 1 passes out. So we've lost 44. That's nearly half. So we have to stem that. And then all the others, I will come back and talk some more about them. I want to just move on. Now, why so much focus on early childhood education and foundational literacy and numeracy? This is a picture that Professor Vinita Kaul, then at Ambedkar University, showed us, I think maybe sometime in October 2017, and the committee just blew us away, actually, to see the difference between children who are deprived of social connections, interactions, and stimulation, and normal children, to see the difference in the brain, actually. And that sort of alerted their committee to the fact that, this is something very, very important, new research that we need to take into consideration. And this is the reason why we started focusing a lot on ages 0 to 8 years, because we found out that nearly 85% of brain development happens before this age, and so we need to have a sharp focus on early childhood care. And like I said, we brought 3 to 6 in. And then about foundational literacy and numeracy, we've identified 3 very, very important reasons why children were not attaining foundational literacy and numeracy. The ASER reports have been coming out for many, many years. And we started asking around what's going on. And we found out that, we are doing what is called age-appropriate teaching learning practices. Means a 5-year-old has to learn this, and a 6-year-old has to learn this, and a 4-year-old has to learn this. But that's not how children function in this period of 0 to 8 years. Some children speak very early, by 2, some children speak at 4, some children develop motor skills very early, some children and can dance and so on very young, others don't. So, the development of the child is varied pace from between the ages 0 to 8, but by around 8 years, everybody starts leveling off with regard to all capabilities. So we have to stop doing age-appropriate teaching learning and switch to developmentally appropriate teaching learning. So that was one big learning for us. The other big learning, which is a social issue, was the fact that most children were learning in a foreign language. So, if you're in Karnataka, then government schools are Kannada medium. But, the Kannada, even if a child is a Kannadiga child, the Kannada the child speaks in the school could be different from the Kannada that the teacher speaks to the child. And then the teacher has to be sensitized to the fact that he or she has to wait till the child has, because children learn languages very fast. So you have to wait till the child has picked up some comfort in the language that you're interacting with the child before you start teaching them, things like arithmetic or anything curricular that you want the child to learn. That was one. And the third thing was that for many of the poorest kids who come to government school, they are hungry when they come to government school. The midday meal is the only really proper meal that they get. And so the policy advocated, offering breakfast. So even a banana or a glass of milk will help, because then the next 3 hours can become, valuable. So the new curricular framework document for the foundational stage was released in October 22. Many of you must have seen it. It's a very nice document, and we'll talk more about it. Just to show you this picture, you may have seen it is there in the policy document, that relative to previous policy, we have strengthened this part. The previous policy didn't address this feature. We've strengthened that and made 0 to 8 the foundational stage, to align with developmental stages, and then created a preparatory and a middle school, which was always there, preparatory stage. And then there is a big change in the secondary stage that we'll talk about, which is that instead of 10 plus 2, we are trying to merge the 2 back into 9 and 10 and create a block of 4 years where the students can actually explore their interests. And we'll come back and talk some more about that. So, you are teachers, so you know this better than I do. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, that, what are the characteristics of children in, in the 3 to 8 stage. There are widely varying range of, the pace of development. So, therefore, you need play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based, multi-level, flexible styles of learning, which is what is reflected in the curriculum framework document. If you've seen it, it's a really beautiful document. I really liked it, because for me, I don't teach in schools, and so, but I found the book, the curriculum framework document, readable and understandable, and I'm sure you have that too. If you have some critiques, we can hear it a bit later. Like all of these topics we have discussed, that at the end of this stage, children begin to adapt to more prescriptive styles of learning, sitting down and doing lessons and so on. So the school readiness is attained at 8 and not at grade 1 or 5 or 6, as it used to be thought before. And then we have to make them comfortable in the language of transaction of the teacher, So like I said, that, the document, this book is in front of me. Actually, I'm holding it and I've bookmarked many things in case, teachers have some questions. So what it does is lay out the guiding principles, goals, the structure, and the elements needed to develop the curriculum. And here, curriculum is referring not just to the syllabus and the content of what you're going to teach, but also pedagogical practices, assessment, formative assessment, classroom practices, learning environment, and even the culture of the school, actually. So there are 13 curricular goals in this foundational stage, broken up into 5 sections: physical, socio-economic, emotional and ethical, then cognitive, language and literacy, aesthetic, and cultural development. You have probably all seen this, actually. And they're all designed with teacher as the primary focus. It says so. So what it's doing is it's helping teachers by specifying curricular goals, which then translate into the competencies that the child need to have. And then further, the competencies are gained over a period of time. So you break the competencies into smaller learning outcomes, and then the teachers have to go after those learning outcomes. So it's actually very nice for everyone, that for teachers to know what is it that they're working towards, for parents to know what is it that teachers are working towards, and for children to know. Of course, these are very small kids, but older children will know that, okay, I was supposed to know this and I know it now. So moving over into prescribing what will you know at the end of the semester is a very, very good thing for everyone. And the National Curriculum Framework does that, actually. And there are really nice chapters on pedagogy and content, assessment, and how to create the ecosystem and so on. What it's doing is giving a compass for educators and setting expectations for outcomes. And I know that before the end of this month, the curriculum for this age group is going to be released. So we have that to look forward to. I think it's probably the 4th week of February. So we look forward to that, and hopefully we can discuss it in future gatherings. So I've talked about this many times before. I think many, if some of you have been in some of my lectures in the past, what research has taught us is that children's brains are very plastic when it comes to languages, and they can learn any number of languages at the same time without getting confused. What is it that they need to learn multiple languages? They need transactional interaction with other children or adults in a particular language. So you need to have one teacher talking to the child in the same language always, And So if you do that, and even in our homes, we do that, if your mother talks to the child in a particular language, then the child is not comfortable if the mother switches to another language to talk to the child. If the mother talks to the father in another language, the child will observe and learn it passively in parallel. But the child wants you to talk to him or her in a particular language. So schools that have multiple teachers can make use of this and introduce children to many, many languages very early. And what happens then is that, the children retain their language learning ability their whole life if they have met 2 or 3 languages very early in their lives. Luckily for us in India, inevitably children learn multiple languages, because especially in the metros, because your staff work speaks a different language, your friends mother tongue is different, and so on. So English, Hindi, Kannada, many other languages come into the picture. But understanding this and helping children learn languages. So I was recently last week in traveling, and I met a principal of a school, and I was telling her that, you have so many teachers who know nearly 6-7 languages because you are living in a border town. So why don't you teach the children all the languages? Get each teacher to talk to the children, in his or her own language. Of course, the medium of instruction remains English, but your child would have learned to speak multiple languages. But he or she will learn to read English only write in English. Okay, that's the language opportunity. So I've said this, that children start thinking about the world much before they come to school, because even now, they used to come at 5 or 6, now they're coming at 3, but they have thinking long before that. And so you need to, if you could continue in that same language, that is when children learn the best. So this is why the NEP said that we have to try to teach them in their mother tongue or home language. And that's easier said than done. It's very, very hard because we have so many dialects and so many languages. But if teachers can interact with the children and help them get comfortable with the language before they transact curriculum, that's already good enough, And we can also think of teaching them bilingually or multilingually in the preparatory stage, when in the 8 to 11-year period, actually. Okay. So NEP has made the 3-language formula always was there. 1986 policy had it. I think even the 68 policy had it. But NEP made a big change and said that, you teach up to 3 languages early, not by the age of 10, because previously the 3rd language used to come in only in middle school. Teach 3 languages very early, and select any 3 languages based on geography and availability of teachers. Okay, so that's the big change that NEP made as far as medium of instruction is concerned, and we can discuss this if somebody has a question. So the preparatory stage, 8 to 11, grades 3 to 5, the primary task during this stage is to make sure that there is foundational literacy and numeracy, and to fix language learning. Okay, so if children are learning multiple languages, let them get good at multiple languages for speaking, let them get good at the one language for writing, and then let them learn the arithmetic and the reading skills that they need. Okay, so that's the goal of this stage. But also this stage will need a lot more, you can start introducing subjects in the 5th grade, science, maths, you can have art, music, and physical education, and so on. And in order to make sure that primary schools are not under-resourced, we have introduced the concept of school complexes that will be places which are nicely resourced and which will be shared with all the schools in the area. That will include private schools. It's not just government schools that will be well resourced, but all the resources will be shared with all schools in the area. So those are school complexes, and school complexes will have really a very important role in class, but also dropouts to adult education. So, we are waiting for the implementation of school complex, because that will contribute resources in every region, which are really desperately necessary at the moment. Okay. So that's the foundational stage. And of course, middle school remains middle school. It's very familiar as it was in the 1986 policy, but there is one very big change that is happening here in the middle school, which is we are saying that vocational education must be introduced at this stage. Okay. This is a very, very big change. And the attempt is to not just introduce students to vocations, but also to bring back the culture of experiential learning, of doing things, and learning how to do them. And that will include also awareness of their habitats and natural resources. So let me talk a little bit about integration of vocational education, because that's very, very important. So what we've done is split vocational education into two kinds. One is exposure, which means introduce that vocation to the children, let them try it a little bit, but we don't necessarily need to offer it to the children to learn it themselves. So, for example, if you are in a village and there is a brick making factory nearby, then, kiln nearby, you go and you see that and you learn how it is made. You let the children ask all the questions about how the bricks are made, and they are baked and they are shipped to various places and what jobs they do, but the children don't have to become brick makers. Okay. Similarly, in a village, if there is a health center, then you need to go there and show them some of the equipment that the health center has, maybe an X-ray machine, maybe a lab to do blood work or so on. You can do that. The Prime Minister, when he introduced the policy, said, if there is a railway station in your village, go to take the kids to the railway station. And then when the train is there, or even when the train is not there, because there's a lot happening at a railway station, even when the train is not there, actually, So you introduce, so that is the vocational exposure. And vocational exposure will start at grade 6, but can continue all the way into grade 12. Every chance you get to take children out on a trip or bring people, experts in to demonstrate or do things, that is vocational exposure, which you can do. Of course, naturally, what will happen is that from some of this exposure that you have, or labs that you have, or workbenches that have been set up in the school to teach kids about how your home is electrically wired, or how the plumbing in your home works, and so on. Some of these vocations can be offered at higher levels of skill, so that by the time a child leaves 12th standard, they have learned at least one vocation well enough to start a job, start a career in that job. And why are we doing this? The reason we are doing this, because GER in India is still only 27%, which means that out of every 100 kids who are in the age group of 18 to 23, only 27 study in universities. So obviously we have to cater to the remaining 73. They need to pick up some skills that will help them start some jobs. Okay, so the last sentence here says every student must take up at least one vocation at national skill qualification level 4 in grade 12 and national level qualification NSQF level 2 in grades 8 to 10. Okay, so that's just trying to equip the child with some skills that he or she can start with if they are forced to drop out for economic reasons. So we did an analysis of dropouts, of the dropout children, and of the 44 out of 100 that drop out, more than 50%, 56 or 60% of them drop out for economic reasons. They need to earn to support their families, to help complement the family income. So, this is an effort to actually meet that. Okay. So that's why vocational education is there. We can discuss further when we go forward. Let me come to the secondary stage where where I said that it's a big change. And here what we've said is that, we will introduce a semester system. And the idea of introducing the semester system is to split subjects into core learning, for example, basic math can be part of core education, which means every child has to do that basic math thing. But children with aptitude for mathematics can do advanced maths, level 1, 2, 3, how many ever they want to. Similarly, some basic exposure to science has to be done for every child, because all of sustainability, which is so much a part of sustainable development goals, which are so much a part of our conversation today, because our planet is at risk, involves science. So you have to have some science that is core science, and then the students, if they don't want to do any more science, can do humanities and social sciences and so on. So the whole idea is to give students the opportunity to explore. This is the best time in their life where they can explore and find the intersection of what it is that they like and what it is that they are good at, so that they can actually choose careers adequately. Okay. So all the subjects choices will include vocational education, arts and sports, but it's also very important that students receive career counseling and guidance. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because it can also be used to stream children, saying, you're not good at this, so please go for this. And that's something that we teachers must not do at any cost. We have to, listen to the child. And then sometimes children will say, I want to do something, and then they'll try it, and then they'll say, oh, this is not what I thought it was, so I'm going to do something else. That's also a good thing, actually. So we should encourage children to explore their interests. And so career counseling and guidance are important. And there's some very important work going on about making career counseling and guidance widely available. And then Rakhi said that I must talk about board exams. So I had this slide anyway. So let me just say that, what NEP was trying to do is to take the pressure off board exams so that students can focus on learning. You learn this subject because it is worth learning, because it's useful in your life. You will use it all the time. And you write the exams as and when you are ready to write the exam. And the exam cannot be, one single day that determines your whole future. If you happen to be sick, or if somebody in your family passed away and you're not in the right frame of mind, and you take the exam and don't do well, you must get a second chance. So NEP said that there should be multiple attempts, but governments have said there will be 2 attempts, which is a good thing, actually, because for them, logistically, to run the exam more than once is very tough, actually. So in principle, what will happen is that all the exams will be available every half a year, and children will decide which exams they will take when, actually. Okay, so that was the idea. So modular exams will then test core concepts, principles, and the critical thinking and higher order skills, all of which teachers need to be involved in to assess. And so then the schools will stop, sort of training students to max the exams, which is what we are doing now, instead of training students to understand why these subjects are valuable to you in your life, in your adult life. Okay. So after that, the whole idea was students will not have to focus on the marks that they learn. Where's my marks? Yeah. On the marks that they earn, so that entrance exam to higher education would be through, there would be an entrance exam for higher education. So those who want to do higher education, this 27 out of 100, or maybe it should become 50, can do the entrance exam. And then institutions will have other criteria, not just the entrance exam. They can have interviews, and they can look at your portfolio and give you admissions. But what has happened now is, unfortunately, is that QET has been implemented before the semester system came in, and before the examinations were rationalized and so on. And in fact, the way QET is implemented now, it is being said that it is the only way somebody will get admission to higher education, which is very, very bad thing to have happened, because now parents are saying that they don't want their children to be in regular schools which are teaching them 9, 10, 11, 12 syllabus. They want to go to a school which will dedicatedly teach them for the entrance exam, which is a very tragic thing that has happened. So what this underlines is the fact that, if implementers don't understand the spirit of the policy, the policy success can be ruined actually. And this is happening. I'm hoping next year it will be slightly different. So that's it. That's about board exams. Oh, no, wait, did I miss a slide? Yeah. So, what we had said was that, because when you change the format of the board exams, then the exams will be for learning, and then there'll be holistic report cards. So the assessment practice has changed completely, and that will then change the role of teachers. So teachers will be able to focus on what they need to do most importantly, which is turn their attention towards adding value to their students, help them develop character, human capacities and skills, and help ensure their mental health, guide them, counsel them, and most importantly, enable students to learn how to learn and become lifelong learners. I was recently in a seminar where the head of Coursera in India, a guy, I think his name was Raghav Gupta. I might be wrong, but his first name I might be wrong. But he said that, one of the most watched courses on Coursera is a course on learning how to learn. Okay. And that was the highest watch courses. And the second highest watch courses was the science of happiness. Okay. So not some technical stuff. Okay. So we need to teach kids to learn how to learn and become lifelong learners, because, when you are born, when you come into this world, it's in your DNA to learn. And then somewhere along the line, things overtake and you slow down. But, most of us are learning all our lives, because, we all didn't have so much technology when we were young, and we're learning how to use it. And we don't even think about the fact that we are actually learning all the time. So like I said, you need to also help students identify their interests and aspirations so that they can contribute to the community and to the economy. And of course, school managements will have to support teachers a lot in this. So now I've kind of finished the bulk of my talk. I just wanted to talk a little bit about 21st century skills, because that's something that is, talked about a lot. And in 1996, there was a report called Learning the Treasure Within. And it talked about the 4 pillars of education in the 21st century, which said that you have to learn how to know, which is you learn a broad base of subjects and learn some of them deeply. Learning to do, which is occupational skills and competencies to deal with situations at work. Learning to live together, which is develop an understanding of society, interdependence, conflict, and all that, peace, and learn to do that. And learning to be, which is better investing in yourself to become a better personality, better human being, and so on. Okay, so this was considered the 4th pillar. Recently in 21, they are talking about adding a 5th pillar, and then there's also talk about revising the 4th pillars. Why is this important? Of course, education must go beyond acquisition of knowledge, which is what we've been talking about all through this talk today. UNICEF came up with a comprehensive life skills framework for India, in which they sort of fitted these 4 pillars that was written in the 1996 report with qualities that students need, which we talk about: critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, empathy, negotiation skills, self-awareness, resilience, and so on. Okay, so this is something that UNICEF came up with. But what I have noticed is that we as a country, we have not picked any such framework, because there are many, many, many frameworks for 21st century skills. Here is one from the World Economic Forum, which I liked very much. I saw it first in 2016. There was a document called New Vision for Education, and what it talked about was that the 21st century skills consist of literacies, foundational literacies, which is your literacy and numeracy that we talk about in school, but also scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, cultural and civic literacy, which we don't talk about at all, but which are so important. And then competencies, which are critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration, and character qualities. You have to help students enhance their curiosity. You have to help them learn from failure. You have to help them learn to be leaders. So these are the characteristics that are written here, actually. So the whole purpose of education is really to holistically develop all this: curiosity, initiative, persistence and grit, adaptability, leadership, social awareness, and so on. So the previous one was a UNICEF thing. And this is a World Economic Forum report. We haven't picked up one as a country. I think it will come in the National Curricular Framework for School Education. You can look out for it. I believe it will come. Now, if people can ask this question, certainly I did when I first saw this, that can you really teach all this? And the answer is that yes, you can. So the same report has a very nice picture about how to teach all these skills. So they're saying that a way to inculcate critical thinking and problem solving is to give continuous constructive feedback. That is, if they've done something wrong, how can they improve it? You don't just say that you've done it wrong or not well enough, but you say, how can you improve it? You could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. Then the child gets additional ideas and so on. So creativity, offer opportunities to build and innovate, use your hands, make things and innovate, provide autonomy to make choices, so that's how you enhance the creativity of the child. Communication, create a language-rich environment, which means listening, reading, writing, all of it, speaking, listening, reading, writing, all of them must be there in very rich measure and so on. So this is a very important aspect of the implementation of NEP, which you all as teachers are always engaged with. And this, I think I'll make my last slide. The NEP is challenging to implement because the reforms in NEP are not incremental. They are transformational. What NEP is trying to do is to overhaul the system. And many parts of the system don't want to be overhauled, right? And that's one part. The other thing is that the policy has actually very well, beautifully articulated where we would like to go. The destination is known, but the pathway to the destination is long and torturous. It takes 20 years to prepare a child. So the pathways have to be worked out, and in the absence of an implementation plan, in 1986, policy had a very detailed implementation plan called the Program of Action, 1992, so that was a very detailed blueprint that any institution could open and see and say what is expected of them to do. We don't have a program of action associated with this policy, which means that individual institutions, teachers, their managements have to work it out, which is very tough. I hope at some point the government will think of commissioning an implementation plan. In any case, the NEP 2020 represents a genuine opportunity for us to give our children a chance to succeed in a globalized knowledge economy in which science and technology have a very, very large role. We are a knowledge economy. There's constant research going on, more technology coming in. All of you must have heard ad nauseum about ChatGPT. This is just the beginning. We are going to hear a lot more about it. So we are going to, the advent of technology is always a double-edged sword. You can do good things with it, but it can also do very bad things. So we have to keep pace with it and learn to integrate it in our classrooms all the time. So it's very, very challenging to implement NEP 2020, but it does give you a compass to think about what is best for the students and focus on helping students acquire 21st century skills, on learning how to learn and becoming lifelong learners, and then to change the focus from what do you know, which is what we ask in today's exams. They have to write about what they know. You turn that question around and ask, what can you do with what you know? Okay. So how do you apply what you've learned to make your life better, your community's life better, your country's future better? So that's where it stands. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. There are some references in the slide. This is just about private schools, saying that NEP encourages private schools or supports it very well. And these are the references. Thank you. I'll stop here. Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, ma'am. In case, I think there was somebody who wanted a picture of the slide, the previous one. which has got a
I'm happy
message.
to share the slides with you, and you can distribute them if you like. That's fine. But I
All
can
right,
also, if
yeah.
you, which one, which
This
slide
one,
would you like?
this one. Yeah,
This
the
one? Yeah,
21st
yeah,
century skills and the following one. Yeah.
yeah. This is from a World
World
Economic Forum report 2016, title New Vision for
for
Education.
education.
Yeah, World Economic Forum report 2016, title New Vision for Education. So this was a nice way of sort of organizing. And then much later I saw, in fact, in 2020, I saw this picture, the previous one, which is not this one. This is in the same World Economic Forum report where they talk about how to teach it, how to use technology to teach it. But this one I saw in 2020, actually, for the first time. So there are many people in India. There is also a very nice life skills collaborative. It's a collaborative of lots of people who are interested in 21st century skills, and they are working out what does it mean, what are the skills, how do you teach them, and so on. But I think as a country, we have to standardize some language so that when we talk about these things, we are all talking about the same thing. Otherwise, there'll be slight differences in what we are talking about. So it means different things to different people. So people talk about the 4 C's and the 3 R's and there are all kinds of acronyms for life skills. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as you rightly said that, with this CUET examinations coming in, unfortunately, the pathway was something which was not known, and that created a lot of confusion among the parents as well. And recently I met up with the counselor, and she had this question that, now when we go to counsel students, the parents have only one question: what is it about CUET that we are supposed to know, and how is it that it's going to affect the higher education of us, our children? So that was something which was actually the talk of that is something which is actually the talk now. And so in such
unfortunately, CUET has joined the ranks of JEE and NEET as one more exam that students
exactly
study for, cram for, and they only want to study for that, and they don't want to use the opportunity to learn, which the NEP was trying to provide. And that's very sad. Of course, previously, before CUET, it was about marks, right? And part of the problem is the fact that we don't have enough high quality higher education institutions to accommodate everybody. So the whole country applies for Delhi University colleges, right? So, we have a pyramid. At the base, we have lots of institutions which are of average quality, and the high quality ones are very few. So everyone's competing for that. So that's the problem, really.
So in that case, will NEP also take care in terms of course, I know that, we are going to be inviting foreign universities to come here and open their own, universities or colleges. So that is something which the NEP is propagating. But apart from that, is there any provision made in NEP to set up colleges and institutes to cater, especially when we are talking about students exiting after 12th from school with probably a vocation that they have picked up? So is there any provision made in the policy for them to pursue that as a career from the vocation that they have picked up?
So the vocation that they have picked up can lead to only either a job, or you become self-employed, or you become an entrepreneur, right?
Okay.
And if you look at the statistics, the periodic labor force survey has statistics about how many people become entrepreneurs. Only 2% become entrepreneurs. They're rare, actually. It's a small group. 34% are self-employed people. Okay. And maybe 25% are regular salaried people, and another 25% are people who are wage earners, but sporadic wage earners, like you don't have a permanent job or a contract job, or you have a contract job or something like that. So the education is about preparing people for life. So if you want to start your own business, or you want to take some job, work for a while, and then move out and start your own business, then already in school, if you have the perspective, if you have some digital literacy, if you have a little bit of financial literacy, and if you have learned something, a particular skill that you like and want to start there, then you can go out much better prepared than you are in from today's 12th standard or 10th standard or 8th standard. I mean, in our schools, kids start dropping out from five already. And by the time they reach 10th standard, you've lost half of them, you know. So, yeah, that. And then, of course, what the NEP is saying is that it should be easy for people who are already working to come back and study some more after a while. You work for a few years, your family has financial issues, or you want to be financially independent. So you create a small saving, and then you say, okay, I'm going back to study. And because you are older and have seen the world of work, you know what you want to study. So you pick those classes, go back and study. So that the UGC has already done, which is that they have set out the academic bank of credits. So you're creating a credit system. So you accumulate credits, and you need, you know, sort of 40 credits per year. You need 120 credits to get a bachelor's degree, or you need 40 credits to get a diploma. You can accumulate your credits and earn your degree, you see. And that is towards two things. One is to support women, many of who have to drop out for family reasons, getting married and moving, having kids and so on. But also to support lifelong learning, which is becoming the norm today, that, you know, even professionals are going out and learning about, you know, new things that they did not learn about in either their college or in their work life, you know. They're going and taking courses.
Yeah. True. Yeah. So we will now throw the room open for discussion. In case I've already shared an Excel sheet, but you can feel free to punch in your questions in the Excel sheet, or you can even raise your hands in case you would like to ask a question. We're open to that, because I think the more you know, the discussion that happens out here, the more clarity it's going to give us in terms of, you know, what is going to be the way forward. And you know, the whole essence of organizing this session is to help educators come up with their questions and you know, clarify their doubts, because that's something that, you know, some of the conversations that goes on in our community is revolving around NEP and NCF particularly. NCF, of course, by itself, I think it's by itself is a separate discussion. If we were to move into the technicalities and the details of NCF, it's a separate you know, discussion by itself, because the booklet itself is something which is you know, so specific in terms of the areas that we as teachers need to focus upon. So that is, again, it's all been specified. And in case there is any question related to the NCF, please feel free to, you know, raise your hand, or you can type it, punch it in the Excel sheet. So as and when I see the hands raised, I'm definitely going to allow you to, you know, ask your question. So I can see Kamakshi has raised her hand. Yes, Kamakshi, you can ask your question. Yeah.
Wonderful forum. I work as a counseling psychologist in a SEC board. And Rakhi, thank you for this. I really wanted to know, and it echoes so much of my thoughts, especially the experiential learning, because generally what happens, if I may use the Hindi word, we do a ratta system in the SSC board, and 20 marks are given even if without the merit of the child. So somewhere down the child knows he will pass for the next 14 marks, which I learned the hard way after becoming a counseling psychologist. So, ma'am, is there any way that we can extend the number of hours? Because if you see, a typical SSC board works from 7:45 to say perhaps 12:45, once a week sports, and if the syllabus is not complete, then some teacher comes as a proxy and teaches them a boring math or science, which the children are not interested, and it ends with children misbehaving and more children coming to me for counseling, behavior modification. So is there an extension in the number of hours, or it would be the privilege of the school to do that? I mean, actually, indirectly, I'm asking, how can I convince my management?
So I think that, you know, school education is primarily a state subject. So by and large, state governments do it. But I think that school managements have been taking some liberties about the number of hours, I believe. I'm not sure, though. Please don't quote me on this. See, the thing is that what the credit framework has said, that there should be 1,200 hours of working hours in a year.
Okay.
Okay. So whether schools have already been doing 1200 hours, I don't know the answer to the question. If they have not been doing 1200 hours, then they should be doing 1200 hours. In the formal schooling. But now with NEP implementation, if schools set up labs, then it should be easily possible to do the 1200 hours, longer hours. But schools want to do shifts, so then they kind of crunch class, and so I'm not sure whether they are doing 1200 hours.
That's something perhaps you can suggest to many schools also. And Rakhi, if we can have such more forums, where the teachers can also get out of that typical slot, like, today I have to teach science. But why? We can do some practicals and let the children know. See, basically all children go for tuitions. They do.
I think that's going to happen very soon, because the focus has shifted from the boards to actually developing competency, learning competency. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to definitely see a shift. And that's where I wrote a comment when ma'am was talking about, how teachers are then going to be actually engaging with the students in a way that there's no pressure of the syllabus. So I was just wondering, then what will happen about the private tuition classes, which go around boasting that, ye bacha mere class mein aaya aur usko 99% aaya. So not even 92. 92 is not what we should be talking about now. So great. Thank you for your question. And I think I do see Dr. Pramila Kudwa's hand that was being raised. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. My question is, implementation is left loose. How are we going to, the policy is marvelous. It's amazing. Hats off. But implementation, when it is left loose, how does it work? How do we achieve what is there in the vision?
So that's a very, very good $1 million question. In fact, I touched upon it briefly, ma'am. Dr. Pramila, I know you have read your book, so it's really nice to have you in the seminar and ask a question. I touched upon the question you raised before, that generally a policy is followed up with an implementation plan.
Yes.
And we as a country, we do not have an implementation plan. What the school education minister, secretary did is to create a document which had, all the tasks listed of what all the tasks that need to be done in order to implement the policy at the school stage. Can someone, I don't immediately remember the name of that document, but it was what was the name of that document? I'm sorry, I can't remember it, but they did that. But that's a very poor substitute for an implementation document. And so this is a worry, and the NEP can get derailed because the implementation plan does not exist.
Yes.
This is true. Yeah. So we're going to have to wait and watch and see if the governments have heard us and have commissioned implementation plans.
And
there's nothing stopping state governments from creating their own implementation plans. Hopefully, at least 1 or 2 state governments will take the lead.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the question. I think we also have some questions on our Excel sheet. So I'm just going to pick and ask the question that has come up. We have around 6 questions out there.
There's also a hand, I think. Alok Guha.
Is there?
I think.
Is there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just a moment. Yeah.
Have you unmuted me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, my name is Aloka. I'm a teacher educator in inclusive education. And I'm, as you all said, very impressed with the NEP. And to the best of my knowledge, the concept paper was very good before that, but the document Sarthak, SAART.
Sarthak, that's right.
AQ.
Yeah.
Dr. Wadia
called
it a weak document. Actually, I found it to be a very strong document because it has very detailed timelines with who is responsible And we, from our field of special education, we put in a lot of suggestions, which were later included. So I actually thought Sarthak was a pretty good document. My real question, Dr. Wadia, is that I was hoping you would talk about the draft NCF, which I wanted to know more about, and how it harmonizes with the NEP. And yes, some states have already started implementing the NEP, especially the states in which, like Maharashtra, where education is a very strong foothold already. And some states, like my own state of West Bengal and Kerala, they are not following the NEP, they are designing their own education policy. But NCF के बारे में आप बात करोगे, Dr. Wadia, that would be a great help.
I'd like to start with thanking you for reminding me about Sarthak. I didn't actually say that Sarthak was a weak document. What I said was that it's not an implementation plan. It had a very detailed list of about almost 300 tasks that needed to be done in order for the policy, to reflect the policy. But it in no way, provides a framework within which all the state governments, all their implementers, all the school managements can work to implement it. So that's all I wanted to say about the Sarthak. I think the Sarthak document is very, very good because it gives people an idea of how much work is involved in actually implementing the policy. Coming to the NCF, what I wanted to say was that, there is only one NCF that is still that is out, which is the National Curricular Framework for foundational stage. Okay. And I found it to be, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I found it to be a very, very readable document. What it is doing
it's very clearly.
It's very, very readable. What it's doing is that it's taking the philosophy of the NEP and translating it into, for example, approaches to pedagogy, and specifying curricular goals, and then breaking them up into desired competencies and learning outcomes at every stage, which then is going to be used by the NCERT to write textbooks. So I know that the textbooks were ready in January and they're being reviewed and polished, and they're going to be released in the fourth week of February, if I'm not wrong. So the textbooks are coming. So of course, for teachers and educators, the textbooks are the main resource from which you're going to textbooks, and accompanying, maybe online resources, there'll be audio and video, and maybe they'll open it up for everyone to contribute resources. They could do that too. So that is the main teaching learning material that is going to come out. But what the framework does is set expectations. It gives everybody a compass, and it sets expectations, and in a great level of detail. So that's why the NCF document by itself is a precious one, actually. So I'm not sure what you would like me to specifically discuss within the NCF, but the 12 or 13 curricular goals that they have, one of them is children developed effective communication skills. Now, at the high level, that's a very tough one. How do we help children develop communication skills? But they have been broken down into simpler ones, saying listens to and appreciates songs, rhymes, and poems. Okay, and then there are many stages of that. Then it breaks into another competency, which is creates songs and poems on their own, then converses fluently and can hold a meaningful conversation. And then the last one in that is understands and oral instructions for a complex tasks and is able to give oral instructions to others. So these are competencies. So if you take the last one saying understands oral instructions, then that is broken up into 5 learning outcomes, which which are progressively, 8 in fact, actually, which are progressively more complex. Like first, can they do simple instruction comprising of a few steps, and then, follow instructions comprising of 8 or 9 instruction at a time? Can they, relate it to previously what they have done before? So that kind of thing. So it's really very
Developmentally appropriate outcomes. Yeah.
Very, very detailedly specified. And so there, for people who are interested, there is really sort of, plenty of detail out there. In terms of pedagogies, it has, outlined the principles for pedagogy, that you want a safe and stimulating environment, for the kids. Place central. I'm reading the principles that they've put. Nurturing relationships between teacher and children are the basis of teaching and learning. Physical development is very important at this stage. Every child must be allowed to learn at their own pace, and learning needs are addressed individually. Then children at foundational stage are more comfortable and learn best in their home language. Then, learning experiences are designed to build on children's previous understanding. And then learning experience in the classrooms are deeply connected to the children's lives and social contexts. So these are all the principles based on which they have come up with a components of what a teaching plan should be, what a lesson plan should be. So this is not a document. I think that the NCF is something that one can do workshops on. It's not really a document to give talks on, I would say.
Yeah. So NCF is, I think, most of it is what the preschools have already been doing. Like when you spoke about a safe and stimulating environment and developing, the child should be able to follow one-step instruction, then complex instruction. So these are some of the things which teachers are already aware of. They have been incorporating it, but it's just that it's been laid down in a manner that it's more organized, systematic, and it's more, I think, what needs to be done now if it was not being done. So
correct.
I think that is where
that's one, and also the leading schools were implementing it, Rakhi. Not all schools were doing that. We have to realize that we have over a crore, 10 million teachers in our system. And it needs to reach everybody so that it reaches every child.
They need to understand that. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Aloka. I hope I've answered your question.
To a large extent, yes. Yes, Dr. Wadia, thank you very much, to a large extent. But perhaps the organizers can organize a separate
workshop,
separate discussion on NCF and draw parallels, very clear parallels with the NEP, in which I hope, Dr. Wadia, we will have an opportunity to listen to you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
you.
Can look into that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So we have a question in the chat as well. Can you please explain a bit about CPD for teachers?
Oh, the continuous professional development. Yeah. So I don't know the details. Since education is a concurrent subject, and the central government is allocating funding specifically for the Nishtha programs, in which they will offer these, they have said that teachers will have 50 hours of continuous professional development, and they will be part of Nishtha program, which means that the funding for it will come from the center, so that even if some states are not in a position to outlay the money, those teachers are not deprived of it. But I do believe that the details of a plan and its implementation for these 50 hours will fall completely into place only after the national curriculum framework for teacher education has come into place. I mean, they've started, you've had Nishtha, 1, 2, and 3 before, and there is a 4th one coming. So they'll start with some things, because like I said, that the NEP is actually a transformational policy. So, a lot of orientation, I won't say training, just orientation of what is the policy expecting from teachers, that needs to be conveyed to all the teachers. So I believe that you will need, in the early years, you will need those 50 hours just to discuss those things, that How do I change my classroom test transaction? How do us collectively, all the teachers and management work together to change the teaching learning environment in the school, change the culture of the school, focus on individuals, not compare everybody with marks, 2 marks more, 5 marks more kind of thing. So the culture of education and institution has to change. So the 50 hours in the beginning will go towards that, but later on, the NCF for teacher education will come, and that will get translated into CPD plans. That's my best guess. As someone who's an outsider now, I mean, I was lucky. I was very, very lucky to get this opportunity to work with Dr. Kasturirangan, and I did. And he told us that you must always continuously interact with people so that you can share the spirit of the policy with everybody, which is what I'm doing now, but I'm not part of any implementation team. So I mean, I can't comment beyond this on the details of the CPD for teachers. Thank you for that question, though.
Thank you. I think we are lucky to, have this conversation today. And, because I know that, there's so much to be known, and there's so much to be implemented, especially when we don't have an implementation plan per se. So I think Dr. Pramila Kudva has one more question, or is that the previous one? Yeah, sure.
I have one more question. I just wanted to know, we have the Bloom's taxonomy, and
Yes.
you were talking about a curriculum framework. Can we draw a parallel somewhere, use Bloom's taxonomy to get into the curriculum framework? Because you talked about the rubric, where you're talking about the different levels and the highest level where the child understands. So if you were to use the rubric, the lower levels, which are common, that could be at the base level, at the entrance level, or the intermediate level. And at the top of the pyramid would be the top excellence. Can we draw that parallel?
I personally, myself, I don't know enough to be able to draw that parallel. And I also think that the NCF people are most likely not going to draw that parallel. But we don't know. The NCF for school education, see, there are 4 NCFs being created. One is the foundational stage, which is out now, the school education, which is expected by March, and the teacher education and adult education, which will have to come in before the end of the year. So 4 national curricular frameworks will be coming in, but I suspect that they are not going to connect it to the Bloom's taxonomy, because I think a lot of educators also feel that it's time to move away from the Bloom's taxonomy and talk about things like connected learning and things like that. Although Bloom's taxonomy has been revised. So those are questions for really expert pedagogists. I wouldn't know the answer to that. We'll have to wait and see, Dr. Pramila. The school education is the most important one in that. It's coming in 2 months. We'll know the answer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the question. And we have another question. One of our YouTube viewer has asked about some clarity on the role of assessment. With the change in pedagogy, what is the change in assessment that we can expect?
So I touched upon it briefly on one of my slides, that the emphasis will move on into formative assessment, not summative assessment, right? What we are doing now is what people, in education language is called summative assessment. But formative assessment is assessment that gives feedback to the child and to the teacher and to the parents, so that the child is in a position to incorporate that feedback and improve their performance. So the holistic report card and formative assessment are the key features of the NEP at all stages, So even in the NCF document, the assessment section talks a lot, the foundational stage assessment NCF document talks a lot about making assessment formative. So, you'll have more frequent tests, but you will have more children speaking more in class, doing more group projects, and getting feedback from the teachers, so that they learn not only from what they did, but from what all their team members did. So, the testing of the kind where you wrote answers to questions, that will become a smaller part of the way assessment is done.
And the 360-degree assessment.
Also, yeah, will. It's a huge cultural change, 360-degree assessment. I mean, many adults feel that they know they don't need any feedback, and so many teachers feel that way, many school managements feel that way. So it's a very big cultural change. So it will take time to come, but at least for the student, it's not difficult to tell the teachers that, look, testing in terms of writing answers in answer sheet is a very small part. Do presentations in class, do group projects, do portfolios, and so on. And so, bring in more experiential learning, which then automatically brings in assessment of different kinds,
Even self-assessment,
and self-assessment, peer assessment will all come in. So assessment will change a lot to reflect the pedagogy and the vision of the NEP Act.
Yeah. We have a workshop on 360-degree assessment by Dr. Pramila Kudva on 25th of Feb. So that is something that is upcoming on creating rubrics and understanding more about.
I hope hopefully I'm an honorary member of your group. I can get
of course,
an announcement.
The invite
then maybe I'll attend some of your events.
Yes, of course. Yes.
I'd love that. Thank you. Then I get a chance to learn from all of you, which is great, actually.
That's great. Being humble. Yes, definitely. We'll be sharing the invite. We have another question from our YouTube viewer, which is for a school in tier 2 or 3 cities, teachers implementing the vision of NEP is a challenge, and we need hand holding. So right. that is something that they are asking for, that how do they get this kind of hand holding?
So I think that's a very, very important point.
Be a part of teachers.
Yeah, that the teacher is making. It's a very, very important point. Teachers do need hand-holding. An implementation plan would have been hand-holding, but this 50 hours of continuous professional development through NISHTA or through things arranged by their respective state governments will also be hand-holding. But I think that, much more effort needs to be put in to kind of converse with teachers and have them converse with each other so that they feel confident about making the changes that they need to do in alignment with the NEP. So I think, but maybe we are in a hurry. Maybe we have to wait a little. So as soon as the curriculum framework and the curriculum comes, then the precise, specific hand-holding can begin, actually. So we use this period wisely to learn and kind of prepare ourselves for the stage when the curriculum framework in school education will come, which is most likely March or maybe April. So we prepare for that in the meantime. The hand-holding will be there. I think it's people understand that it is very difficult. So teacher training programs will be run across the country, I believe.
I think this answer of yours is also an answer to the next question, which is even as of today, the kind of trainings offered by CBSE or state board is having little value to do with aspects of NCF. So I think we're a little early, and once the draft is out, that's where we can expect more inputs from the board as well coming in for teachers.
Yeah. See, the NCERT has come up with the textbooks, right? So they're going to immediately follow it up with training for CBSE board teachers. But what will likely happen, like for example, Karnataka has done this in the past also, that in several subjects they will pick up the NCERT books only for Karnataka. And it's only some subjects that they will use the NCERT material as base material to add state-specific topics and concerns, so language and social sciences and environment and all of that, to include the regional issues. But science and math and so on, they'll probably keep the same. So actually, once the first set of textbooks start coming, this whole thing will start picking up pace. Actually, yeah.
So we have a couple of questions more. Is it okay if I take them?
Sure. It's completely okay with me.
Yeah, Thank you so much. So that's on the Excel sheet, and that talks about something that we discussed over a call, that is this is a national education policy being implemented only in CBSE schools, or it is meant for all schools across there?
So national education policy, has been made, soon after independence. We had Kothari Commission, and then the first 1968 policy. So the policy actually sets the desirable goals and the vision and so on, but it is up to each state government, because the Constitution gave charge of education to state governments. It's up to each state government to decide how it implements it. Okay. Now, since this policy is considered to be a good one, and if there is an implementation plan that comes with it, then, the policy and the implementation plan may be adopted directly and all the work being done by national institutions like CBSE and NCERT may get adopted by many states. But many other states like Kerala, for example, who've already been working on some of these things, may go their own way. Tamil Nadu has said that they will, do their implementation plan on their own, actually. Kerala is doing it on its own. Maybe other states will do it too. But the decision making with regard to how NEP will be implemented remains with the state governments. That is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because, we then, to get a picture of what's happening in the country, have to interact with multiple state governments. And that's near impossible because, you don't speak their language, you don't know the people in the government, in the departments of education. So getting a picture of what's going on is pretty complex. So we keep engaging with the central government and its Department of School and Higher Education.
Okay. I think that was really needed to kind of clear the air, because that is one of the questions which often gets repeated, that how is it going to be implemented? Yeah. And then
I would suggest to all teachers and educators and education, activists and everybody, that we should engage with our state governments. We should ask for information. We should, kind of demand that there is a channel at their website, some like a marker of where the state is with regard to implementation of the policy. It's necessary to do that. If we don't know the language, it becomes a problem. Now, when we move around, like people like us, luckily I'm now in Bangalore and I speak some Kannada, so I could interact with the government. Many people in the government speak English, but it's just that if you don't know how to read and write in Kannada, then you cannot read their web pages also. So there are complications. It's getting easier because Karnataka government, for example, has an English version of every page. Otherwise, you have to use Google Translate.
ChatGPT.
But you have to work harder to actually, get to know what is the Maharashtra government doing, what is the, Assam government doing, what is Hyderabad, government, Telangana government doing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's tough. So we should, while we all look at the center, we should also keep an eye on our respective states. That will help us put a picture together, put the jigsaw together, actually.
I think that's a good one. I think we should start doing that as well, because we're only concerned about the state that we are in. But I think it helps to understand what others are doing, especially the neighboring states. What are they doing?
Right.
Maybe incorporate some of those there.
Absolutely. So the bureaucracy, actually, they talk to each other, and best practices in some state are replicated in other states and so on. But I think that if we get involved, we can actually strengthen that process and speed up the process, of adopting best practices across states, actually.
Yeah, that's indeed something which can be, I think, because on our forum also, we share a lot of news related to what's happening in other states and how is NEP being implemented in other states. But I think we can amplify this further by even interacting and understanding, especially, from the point of view of Maharashtra, if we are in Maharashtra, and understanding what others are doing, which can also be replicated.
Right.
And I think I'll take a last question, which talks about Parak. In case you can throw some information on Parak, which is going to be the tool used by schools for assessment. So that's something that some insight is required over there.
So I have to say that I didn't do too much homework on it. Yeah, I didn't do too much homework on it. I think Parak is designed to do key stage assessments.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So key stage assessments in the NEP, we said that because we are going to open it up and because we are going to create space for teachers to pick up a learning outcome and say, I don't have to teach it the way it's written in the book. I have my own method of teaching it, which is fine, which is how it should be, because then all the innovativeness and creativity of all the teachers and all come into play. But then we have to have some idea of the health of the system, that are the children actually benefiting? Are they actually achieving their learning outcomes? Are they developing competencies? Are the curricular goals being reached? So the key stage assessments are for that purpose. So they will be in 3, 5, and 8 standards. Okay. And the spirit of those key stage assessment, that's why the key stage assessment is not for a chosen bunch of kids by the schools, because then the schools will give their best students to write the exam. So that is then kind of a reflection of what the best kids in the school are doing. We said that the key stage assessment should be done by all students. So the idea is that the key stage assessments will be taken by all students, so that we have a very clear picture of where we are, so that we can then decide where we want to go, actually. So that's the spirit of Parak. It's not meant to create more tension. And in fact, all the skill lies in the design of the exams. It is to be stress-free. The kids are not supposed to be studying for it. They are going to be tested on their competencies and on things that they are, learning in school. In practice, what will happen remains to be seen. We'll have to see.
Yeah. And
Many
it's a beautifully
times,
designed document.
Yeah, implementation is always the challenge. Many times what happens in practice and what is intended are different. But over time we can try to align them better, actually. Yeah. But it's important to understand why these exams need to be made. People, when the policy came out, people asked us that, you all said that you're going to make it more easier for the kids to learn and so on. And then you're putting all these exams. And we said, but then it's not supposed to be treated like an exam where, the kids are studying and the mums are waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning and making tea for the kids and, sort of sitting beside their kids while they study. That's not how it's supposed to be done. The whole idea is that it's actually just meant to give feedback to the educators as to how well they are doing in the implementation of the policy.
Yeah, I was also wishing that we have more of open book exams.
Yes. In fact, some of those will have to come in, actually, because it's not about cramming.
Yeah, the current system is just about cramming with so much of information that I often feel if such information can actually be converted into an open book exam and more application based, of course, we are seeing that coming in, but open book exam is something that we are yet to see in schools. Yeah.
Yes. We should have open book exams, really.
I don't know,
because I told you
that going to be allowed. Yeah.
NEP is trying to change the focus from what do you know to what can you do with what you know. So, okay, you learned all this in school. What can you do with it? What can be used for?
How do you build?
How do you benefit the community and society, the economy, the country, the planet? Because post World War II, we have used resources of the planet very, very irresponsibly. So, for example, if you look at, I would suggest those of you who are interested, take a look at NASA's map of the groundwater in India. And it's shocking. It's just, the groundwater is finished. And amazingly, it's finished at the base of the Himalayas, really. Okay. So we've used up all the clean drinking water, actually. And so the succeeding generations, our children, will have to deal with the consequences of all this. So we need them to be able to be problem solvers. In order to be problem solvers, they need to understand the sources of the problems, and not to cause conflict, but to actually manage conflict.
Yeah.
So therefore, the education system doesn't have any choice but to change, actually, to respond to this.
Yeah, the coming years, I'm definitely sure we're going to be seeing so many changes with the implementation of NEP, and also in the changes in terms of assessment and the boards being done away with. So that's something which is going to open up room for discussion in classroom, which was not the case, where the teachers were more concerned about completing the syllabus and lessening. The time for discussion was very, very less. But now I think with this change, we will see more discussions happening in classroom, and teacher actually playing the role of a facilitator than a teacher. So that's something that we really look forward to. And that would also mean that we need more teachers, joining the profession than leaving the profession, which is the case now, where we see more teachers leaving the profession because of the stress that's being created. So I think with so many changes coming in, teaching would again get back to where it used to be, a joyful profession to be in. And also in terms of, so many questions keep coming about, what is the provision being made for salary when it comes to the teaching profession. So I think schools are now realizing and understanding that, yes, if they need to see a change, in the teaching methodology, it's the teachers, who need to be invested in terms of their continuous professional development, and also in terms of the salary that they deserve. So I think these are the changes which we're going to be seeing in the coming few years, and it's going to take a while, and also some clarity that will be seen by the end of the year once all the 4 drafts are out. So curriculum drafts are out. So that's also something that we are waiting for, to understand the roadmap as to what needs to be done. And with this, I think there are no more questions for you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being patient and answering all the questions and taking it up for all our community members. We've also gone live, so that for those of who couldn't join us, they can definitely view it at their own pace and gain some clarity when it comes to implementation, and also the essence of NEP. They can actually gain some clarity on that as well. And we look forward to hosting you once again when it comes to discussion on NCF. We also have now people joining us at this time. So yeah, we look forward to hosting you. And when it comes to discussion about the NCF, once the drafts are out one by one, we definitely look upon to you, and I'll keep writing to you for more clarity in terms of the questions that keep coming. So thank you so much for your time today, and for answering all the questions. Thank you, Dr.
I just saw a question by Pramila, which says how parents will be roped in for the implementation. I think the answer is that for informal terms, the parents will come in through the school management committees. But I think we know that the participation of parents is very active in urban areas, and in the participation of parents is a lot less in rural areas. So obviously parents have a lot to contribute. See, for example, if you introduce vocational education, then among the parents, you will find so many vocations. So you can rope them in to come and introduce those vocations to the children, actually, give talks, take them to their businesses, explain how the business works, explain how their medical clinic works, explain how their science lab works. So parents are a huge resource in the NEP, and I'm sure they'll be worked. I'm sorry, Rakhi, you had already closed the thing, but I just saw the question, so I couldn't help commenting, but that's it.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you so much. I missed out on that question. And for those who would like to go back to the discussion that we've had today, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, the link of which is shared in the chat. So you can just click on it and you will be able to view the discussion that has happened today, and maybe mull over it a little more to gain some clarity. Thank you once again. Thank you to all the members for joining in today, which only shows that we are all committed to our profession, and we are also committed towards bringing about a change. So thank you once again, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you all very much. It was a lovely evening being with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.